Welcome to For Youth by Youth, a webinar series of the National Center on Philanthropy and Youth Philanthropy Connect, the first webinar series opportunity for youth by youth. YPC engaged in philanthropy to connect and learn through a peer network is the only national nonprofit dedicated exclusively to families who give. Next, the control panel. You can minimize or maximize the panel to your convenience. From this panel, you can in the questions box throughout the webinar, them during the question and answer period that will come at the end. Additional handles are listed above, and we would love to see you on Twitter as well. This evening, the webinar will be facilitated by myself from Youth Philanthropy Connect, as well as by Anna Lebermeyer and Viral Souther from Youth Philanthropy in Tulsa, Oklahoma. To do Serena Dayal, and I am a leadership team member of Youth Philanthropy Connect, or YPC. I attended YPC annual conferences with my fellow junior board members in 2011 and 2012. After witnessing and experiencing all we had become within just those 2 years, I decided to join the league to help grow its potential as a youth philanthropist network. Both being on the leadership team and attending youth conferences has opened many doors to better philanthropists in my family foundation, and as it has helped me define what causes matter to me most and has impact in my giving. And now I'll pass it on to Anna and Viral, who will introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Anna. I've been a member of the Youth Philanthropy Initiatives for 3 years and work with a local nonprofit called Emergency Services on their junior board. I've been president the past 2 years, discovered my passion for giving and service, and plan to pursue a career in social entrepreneurship. A cause to me right now is the power of the individual volunteer to make change. Tweet me at.
Hello, my name is Viral Souther, and I'm also a part of the Youth Philanthropy Initiative Cohort 6. Over the years in YPI, I've found that I truly care about helping others, and I plan to pursue a career and maybe one day open up my own nonprofit.
Okay, we're going to kick off things by getting to know each other a little better. Some polls will pop up on your screen in a second. The first poll is the options are giving or volunteering with my family, volunteering at a local giving with a foundation, giving or volunteering board, and giving or volunteering with my school or other groups. Giving with a foundation was 67% of oscillation, and giving with a foundation can be really rewarding, and there's lots of decisions to make too. Some great tools that can help with that. The next poll is, in what setting do you make collaborative decisions? The first option is with my family. The second is with my classmates, with my peers in an organization, or with my fellow volunteers at a nonprofit or foundation. The biggest response was with my fellow volunteers at a nonprofit or foundation. It looks like most of you give with that, and that is wonderful. I know in my own volunteering these skills have come into play to allow me and my peers to make good decisions and really support the mission of the organization. The last poll is how close are the people you're collaborating with in distance and relationship? This one you can select one or more. When we make decisions, we are all in the same room. When we make decisions, it is over the phone. Those making decisions are related. Those making decisions are peers. Those making decisions are colleagues ranging in age. Okay, we have two. Our highest response is when we make decisions we're all in the same room. In close second place are when we make decisions it is over the phone, and those making decisions are in age. At YPI, we all make decisions together at meeting today in some of these same environments. Now that we've all... Oh, I'm sorry. Now that we've learned about all of you, let's learn about both of our organizations. Serena, can you please tell us some more about YPC?
Sure. Before we get going, I'll briefly tell you about YPC's history and how we are here today. YPC's mission and goals focus on creating fun and exciting networking opportunities for youth engaged in philanthropy. YPC enables youth to create lasting dialogue with other youth on how to navigate the world of philanthropy. YPC was started. Lincoln Foundation, next, from Illinois, asked about reaching out to meeting with other young people doing similar work. They wondered about what other work was being done and how the grant-making process could be approached by other junior boards. The Lumpkin Foundation reached out to the Frida C. Fox Family Foundation based in Los Angeles. Their family also began involving youth at a young age in the grant-making process. In the summer of 2010, the youth of both foundations met and shared their models of grant-making with one another. That is where all the magic started. The youth learned about different approaches to grant-making and appreciated being able to share stories and ideas with one another. After this initial meeting, the youth of the Fox family decided that such networking was incredibly beneficial to start a larger-scale youth philanthropist meetup to meet more junior boards. In 2011, the Youth on Board retreat took place where 4 family foundations brought together the youth of their family to connect with and learn from one another. Coming together with these other youth was so inspirational to myself and other attendees that we together created what is called the Youth Philanthropy Connect to maintain long-term development of ideas. Over the past 3 years, we have grown tremendously. We have hosted annual gatherings of youth philanthropists from families, community foundations, and school-based where the youth meet one another and learn together. Serving on the leadership team and organizing such events and webinars, such as this one, has been a fun way for me to engage in the world of philanthropy, and specifically with my peers who carry similar interests. YPC aims to connect youth and expand their resources to others. So in addition to this webinar, which is the third in a series of 4, we are hosting 5 regional gatherings across the country this summer, and would love to meet you all. Anna will discuss these upcoming events towards the end of the webinar. We are excited to have you all with us here today, and I'll hand it off to Viral to tell you more about what we're going to explore together right now.
I'm actually going to talk to you guys a little bit about the Charles and Lynn Schusterman Family Foundation and YPI. The Youth Philanthropy Initiative was started in 2004 by the Charles and Lynn Schusterman Family Foundation. YPI is an advanced leadership development program that channels the energy of teens to build stronger communities. Over the course of 3 years, 25 teenagers from around the Tulsa area form a cohort. Together, they identify a single focus issue and create a project to improve conditions for other teens. At the conclusion of YPI, students will have created a prototype of their program that can be implemented in other communities.
The missions and goals of the Youth Philanthropy Initiative are to channel the energy of teens and to build stronger communities, improve leadership skills, and work in collaborative groups with peers. The process of YPI is that the cohort of the chosen amount of students identify an issue that they think is pressing facing the teens of the Tulsa area, and then they work through committees to tackle this issue and try to improve the way it is in our community. Today, what we'll be covering are skills to help with effectiveness, collaborative decision-making, meeting roadblocks and how to overcome them, and at the end, we'll be having a question and answer.
The first thing I'm going to cover is one of our really important decision-making tools. It's called PMO, Brainstorming and Decision-Making Tool. So you can use it for both of the processes. And a group can use it to expand on a spark of an idea or to make sure that a decision is on track with the group or project goals. You can think of PMO really as POM because the first step is to establish the decision's purpose and agree on its outcomes. Groups often get off track because it's so much more exciting to go right away to the methods. So if you have the P and the O clear, the decision options are usually a lot clearer anyway. So rather than having like what seems like 100 different methods to one decision or like direction for the project, you'll have like 4 or 5 things, and then you can move on to like a dialogue, you know, breaking those down a little deeper.
One very important aspect of peer-to-peer decision-making is facilitation. Having a facilitator, whether it be an adult supervisor or a student that is designated as a facilitator, is very important for all peer-to-peer decision-making, because conversations can be derailed very easily due to short attention spans and just sheer nonsense, because, you know, being young, that kind of stuff happens. You can't help it. One thing that we do in YPI that truly helps a lot is having committee chairs. Committee chairs oversee the entire meeting, the discussion, they create agendas, they make sure that everything is rolling along nicely. They drive the conversation, and one thing that is very important that committee chairs do for us is that they make sure that everyone is heard. Because when everyone is heard, you know that you're getting the best ideas all the time.
Viral and I have come up with some roadblocks we've encountered in our experiences making collaborative decisions with YPI. The first roadblock is when it's time to make a decision and everything is getting jumbled. This takes place after PMO, when 1 or 2 options are clear and discussions kind of keep going in circles. The solution to this problem is called consensus cards. These are cards that everyone in the group has. One is green, which means totally agree. One is yellow, which means agree but has some concerns, and one is red, which means totally against. Once the decision options are laid out, the facilitator will call for the cards and everyone will hold up the card that expresses their feelings. Then after you see like the dynamic of the group, oftentimes in YPI we'll have all green cards, and so it makes our lives a lot easier. But you can talk about the how those with the yellow or the red cards are feeling, and then adapt your decision to that so that truly everyone has a voice in that.
This roadblock I actually hold very near and dear, because the louder voices very often do take over. Me being a louder voice, I've come to notice that it's very easy to monopolize a conversation, and taking a step back and listening to everyone in the group, you gain a lot of insight, and it makes the conversation a lot more, have a lot more depth, and you gain a lot more when you listen to those people who aren't as talkative or they don't reach out as much. And that's why we have focused facilitating. That's where the committee chair comes into play. Is when you have someone driving the conversation, someone to tell those louder voices to maybe take a back seat a bit, let someone else have a chance. You learn a lot more, and you can move forward a lot quicker.
The last roadblock is debate hurting the discussion. This is a problem we ran into a lot early on in YPI. We had a lot of champion debaters and then other people with some really strong feelings about the potential project we were looking at. And instead of talking about the various issues, people were ripping apart the other group's presentations or suggestions. And this caused a lot of unintentional hurt feelings because a lot of the students were just feeling really, really passionate. They didn't understand that they were actually hurting someone's feelings. And so the solution to this is to stop the conversation. And usually this is the job of the meeting facilitator, but really it's anyone in the group can step up and be like, okay, we've gone off track. And then you need to acknowledge the unhealthy behavior. So if one group is up on the board presenting and there's some people that are like maybe against their issue, not against their issue, but presenting another issue that they really care about, it's time to point out that like it's okay that they're having some differences. We have to talk these out so that we all make a decision together. And then after that, make the intentional shift to dialogue. And sometimes it helps to take a break after the debating's been stopped and then return and refresh the conversation.
Yeah, this debate mentality that Anna's talking about actually has a name called agonism, and it's sweeping rampant through people our age, and it's derailing a lot of potential that we have as youth to really progress, as not just in decision making, but in everything we do. So this debate versus dialogue war that we see is honestly very important. This next roadblock we'd like to discuss is getting just bored. You know, being kids, being younger, it's easy for us to get derailed from what we're trying to do, especially when it's a long, grueling process. You know, we're sitting in there for 5-6 hours trying to find out what we want to do, what we need to do. So one thing that we found very useful, and it's a very simple thing to do, is just step away for a while. You know, one thing we like to do is just go out and have a little energizer, maybe play a little game. You know, it's always fun. As you can see in this picture, we were doing some hulking, if anyone remembers what that meme was. Just any little things, you know, that could really liven us up. So when we go back in, we're not stuck in those ruts that we were in when we're trying to make decisions. So we can go back in with a fresh outlook, you know, a better opinion on what we're going into.
We've actually covered all of our content slides, and I hope everyone has been sending in questions, and now's a great time to do those because we're still gathering them for our question and answer. Serena mentioned that YPC and the National Forum on Family Philanthropy has national events, and so you can see on the screen that there's a national conference coming up in Seattle this fall, and NCFP is hosting the forum in Seattle, which is so exciting. You'll get to learn about philanthropy and go to Pike's Place Market. Doesn't it get any better than that? And then we also have some additional webinars in this series. There's one more, and this series is about using your voice to ignite change, and it has speakers from all across the country, so it's going to be really exciting. And then you can see on this last slide that this is information about the regional gatherings. And the cities are listed on the screen, and you can find more information at youthphilanthropyconnect.org.
And now we're going to have some closing words of wisdom. So one thing that we learned in our 3 years of YPI is that a conventional leader, someone like a committee chair, someone to move the conversation along, move the discussion along, it's essential to have a successful meeting, because it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy to get derailed from what the purpose of what we're doing is, and it's very essential to making sure that everything is functioning well. Just monopolizing the discussion, having those like 1, 2, 3 people that can talk the loudest. They can make sure that their opinion is heard, while the quieter people keep getting shoved down further and further, and their ideas, which might be amazing, none of us get to hear because you have these 3 loud people that are monopolizing everything, is very bad for all this decision making, because at the end of the day you're losing a critical piece of your group, which you need at the end of the day. And that's where dialogue over debate, because dialoguing over debate is something that is not good for any of us. And then the biggest one, my favorite, taking a break can honestly help you with your conversation more than anything. Because if you can take a step back, clear your mind, get some fresh air, it's a lot easier to tackle whatever problem you have at hand. Whatever decision you need to make makes it all a lot easier.
Thank you, Anna and Viral, for those awesome tips. Something I thought of while you were giving the presentation was how to handle various dynamics. So what are some tips you have for making sure everyone in a diverse group, whether by age or background, has a voice in the decision-making process? Also, before you answer, I just wanted to chime in with one experience of my own. Something that my family foundation has to deal with as relating to diverse groups is that we have kids ranging from age 5 to 21. And so we usually have an older family member facilitate the conversation, and this role is taken pretty naturally, but it's important to make sure that those that are younger are not silenced and feel comfortable enough to voice their opinion, and making sure to ask them, or ask hey, does anyone have anything to add? and specifically, like, asking the younger youth has encouraged our youth to feel more comfortable in voicing their opinions. So just making sure that we ask everyone is something that's helped us. So just wondering how you approach giving voice to everyone in diverse groups.
I can take that one. I've worked with a lot of different organizations, and oftentimes there'll be like a bunch of people come together that don't know each other, except like there'll be groups of 2 or 3 that are like friends from different schools or like have things like that in common. And kind of goes back to what we were talking in the earlier about having a facilitator. And so in the groups I've been in, having a facilitator that kind of breaks up those little groups of 2 and 3 and combines them into like groups of everyone, and then like puts people from 2 completely opposite schools or something together, can really help get everyone talking rather than like 3 people turned into each other. And so I really think icebreakers are a fun way to do this, because like not everything, bringing people together doesn't get better than games. So, and like everyone can identify with that, and you're like laughing super easily. And so I think having a facilitator that is focused on kind of breaking up little groups like that can really help, and then icebreakers also. So mine was a little different from Serena, whereas she has a lot of different age ranges. Mine is more of people from different groups coming together.
Thank you, Anna. And yeah, coming back to the tip that was from the last problem, which was making sure to give yourselves breaks during the meeting. We don't do like icebreakers. We obviously know each other very well because we're family, but we try to tie our meetings around like food. So we'll usually have, all the moms will make something. It'll be like potluck style. It'll be like, oh, everyone come and to this person's house, and we'll have like lunch, and then after that we'll have a meeting. So that's kind of how we try to break up the seriousness of the meeting for everyone to get along. All right, I'll ask another question. So how do you make sure that options for a decision are clear before the group makes decisions?
Yeah, I can chime in on that one. I'm just going to reference to a time when Anna was actually our group committee chair. We had a really good system of making sure her and another member of our cohort did a really good job of making sure that all the options were laid out visually. We use a lot of different tools like Group Hub. They're all like virtual tools, but a lot of different options to make sure that every possibility was laid out visually so we could see them, which helped a lot, because if you can see what all the options are laid right next to each other, it can really help stimulate the conversation and the dialogue to really make sure you're picking the best option among everything.
In YPI, we do a lot of presentations, and so when we were trying to decide on our project, it came down to like 2 different ideas, and it was kind of like the cohort was split. And so we had people doing PowerPoints, and then after the PowerPoints, we would like ask questions and stuff. And then after that, we ended up just getting on the whiteboard, like kind of old-fashioned, but it works. And just like writing out the major points. If anyone had any questions, like someone from the group would answer it, and then a scribe would write it on the board so that it was like super clear for everyone. And then this also helps, PMO also really helps with that, because you can have you can see the purpose of whatever your decision is. So like for YPI, it was create a project that addresses an issue for teens, and then like the outcomes that you want, and then you can like divide it into the 2 different methods and really compare those. I'm like definitely a very visual person, so writing it out always helps.
That's awesome. I really like those ideas. With our foundation, we usually get like an email blast sent out to like do grant reviews on Foundant, which is like a website that. But then when we all come together, like we find like, oh, a lot of people didn't do it, or there's a problem and people don't remember. So I like the idea of creating like visual reminders, or like making like a presentation of the like options for people. That's a really good idea. And then how have you kept everyone engaged who might not have been as invested throughout the grant process? So if somebody is like more absent, but then they are still like, how do you make sure to keep everyone engaged?
I can take that one. That's a really tough question, and that's something I really deal with a lot in my work leading the Enrichment Services Junior Board, just because high school students are so busy. And I found that the best way is individualizing. So if I have someone that like is playing a key role in a committee, but they haven't really been coming to the meetings, I'll call them up and like be like, hey, I emailed you the meeting notes, and I just want to talk about them with you. And like, what have you been up to lately? Like, just talk about their work. And so I think having that like face-to-face contact can really keep them accountable to be like doing what they committed to in the project, but also like kind of get them excited again.
Yeah, on what Anna said, when you can, if there's someone that seems like they're not that invested in what we're doing, if someone who is invested can simply ask them a question, you know, just say, what's your opinion on this? If they know that their opinion is valued, you know, the smaller voices, as we like to call it, if they just know that they're, sorry about that, if they know that their opinion is valued, they know that they're getting listened to and that their opinion is valued, so everything rolls a lot. They feel more invested that way. That way they can jump in and feel a lot more comfortable.
Great, thank you. And something else that I thought of was channeling different interests in relating to like different, you know, because I know you're probably around a lot of people who are like doing different studies in their schools or focusing on different things, and like within our family too, we have a lot of like people who are interested in different things. And I myself, like, I personally care about some causes that maybe other family members don't. So how do you channel addressing different interests within your giving?
Yeah, that's when those consensus cards really came in handy at one point, because we got to a point in our committee, our group, where when decision making all led down to how we could persuade other people. We were all debating over. We were all trying to convince the other side whose group was better, you know, because we all had such different opinions on what we thought was worth our our next 3 years in this program. So we ended up using these consensus cards to really figure out what we wanted, and that's how we figured out that even though we all had different opinions on this stuff, we could still all come to a consensus through like honest dialogue.
That's a really tough situation, because I think like when you get down to it, there's just going to be differences. But one thing, once we kind of made an overall decision, is we really focused on plugging people into something that they're interested in. So since like one of our cohort members was like not super interested in the project, but they like love the idea of talking to adults and stuff, so we put them on like a committee that worked with local nonprofit leaders. So even though they had wanted to go a different direction, they were able to find something that still had like a base similarity to their passion.
Thank you. And I was wondering also, since you have a lot of peers who are the same age group as you, so how do you make sure to separate between meeting time versus like fun time? And I know you guys take those breaks, and you say like take 15 minutes. So when you come back from that 15 minutes, is there like ever like people are still like they think they're still in the 15-minute break time, but it's actually meeting time? Do you ever have to like address issues like that?
That's so funny that you say that, because we had a YPI meeting today, and since like it's getting towards the end of the 3 years, we're all really close. And our facilitator left the room, and it like somehow music was turned on, and like everyone was talking about prom, and so like we still haven't gotten over that one. And like our facilitator walked back and was like, hold on, I don't think we're doing actual work. But having a facilitator that is really focused on being focused can help. But also just like pausing. I know we've had issues in our monthly meetings with like maybe 1 or 2 people just like carrying on a conversation. Just pausing and being like, hey, like we all came here to do this. Like this is really important to us. Can this like please be really important to you? So it's definitely difficult, and we try to like keep everything like very light and conversational, but sometimes it definitely does take some like kind calling someone out when the focus is just not there.
One thing that I noticed
Yeah.
that
Something that reminded. Go ahead.
sorry. One thing that I noticed with our YPI group is that all of our icebreakers and our pauses, they'll all be sort of indirectly related to what we're doing at the time. You know, whether it's like leadership or group building, it all focuses us because it's all sort of funneling into what we're doing at the moment.
Mhm.
Which at the end of the day, you know, even a pause, like a relaxing 15-minute break, you can still help to use to get people to concentrate indirectly, you know, a little.
Something Anna said earlier about making sure to like give space to people reminded me of the phrase "make space, take space," which has been like a concept just to that's important for everyone to just keep in the back of their minds. You know, make space if you are taking up too much space yourself in a conversation, and then also take space if you're not saying enough. Like make sure you remind yourself like, oh, it's okay for me to voice my opinion, and that you do that. And any so, Anna and Viral, if you have any other final words of wisdom or tips for anyone?
I think coming from someone kind of to go off that make space, take space, if I'm in a group that I'm really comfortable with, I'm definitely like the loudest voice in the room. But I've had a few times where I've been with people like I don't know at all. They're like kind of intimidating to me. Like I think it's important to know that your voice matters and like what you have to say matters, and that if you don't like say that, then you're actually like hurting the project. And so I think even though it might like feel a little awkward or like nerve-wracking at first, as soon as you kind of get that like first thing out, everyone like appreciates that and you're helping the project and you're also helping yourself.
Yeah, along that make space, take space thing, I think that's one of the greatest things. Me being another loud voice, I learned over my decision-making time through YPI that being able to listen to those take spacers, those guys who really need to get their opinion in, is so valuable to what you're doing as a group, because those are the people who really have the greatest, some of the best ideas, some of the best opinions, and those are the people that are worth listening to. So if you need to make space for those people who need to take it. Love that saying, definitely.
Thank you. And then something I just thought of myself was also our foundations model makes it really easy for us who, if we have different interests, to make sure that we're still able to give towards that, because we have a collaborative grant that our youth board gives, and that we make decisions collaboratively on a majority basis. But we also have like discretionary grants that each individual junior board member has access to. So that's an awesome way to make sure that everyone is able to tone in on their interests when they're giving. And then so from that was an awesome tips. And if anyone has any final reflections or best tips that they want to type in and let us know what they thought, thank you. And then thank you everyone for attending. And we will send out a discussion guide with resources and tips after this webinar.
Bye!
Thank you. Good night.